Hi, my name is Lauren Primus, and this is my oral presentation for Cultural Diversity 245. And I am going to talk about the Seneca Falls Convention. In the early 1800s, women were considered second-class citizens. Men were the top notch. They were first class, had all the say, had all the rights. Women were just supposed to stay home, cook, clean, and take care of their husbands, their house, and their children. That's all they were supposed to do. No one supported them to pursue an education or a career. They were just supposed to stay home all the time. And they could not keep any money that they made. Every penny, every hard-working dollar that they made went straight to their husbands, and they never got to keep anything. And the one thing that was a major concern to women was they didn't have a right to vote. And there are many women throughout history that have made an impact. And here are just a couple that have made an impact on women's rights. Susan B. Anthony. She was born in 1820 and passed away in 1906, and she established the National Women's Suffrage Association. Next is Florence Nightingale. A lot of people have probably heard from her, and she was born in 1820 and passed away in 1910. She was the founder of modern nursing, which I thought was pretty cool since I am going into nursing. And she is considered the lady with the lamp. She is called this because she was the only woman during the war that would go around at night, and she would try to help all the soldiers that were wounded. She would travel that battlefield all by herself, walk around with the lamp, and help anybody in need, and where she got the name, the Lady with the Lamp. The next lady I want to talk about is one of the main people throughout history in the Seneca Falls Convention, and she is Lucretta Mott. She was born in 1793 in Massachusetts and passed away in 1880. She was one of the leaders of the Seneca Falls Convention and was a women's rights activist. Also, she completely opposed slavery. She would voice her opinion and try to get out that others shouldn't buy the products of the slave labor. She married her husband, which his name was James Mott, and he was actually in the cotton trade. And she later on convinced him and persuaded him to get out of the cotton trade, and he did in 1830. Later on, her and her husband went to the Anti-Slavery Convention in London in 1840. This is where it all started taking place, because at this convention, women weren't allowed a say. They were not allowed to participate, and this is when it all started rolling, and the Seneca Falls kind of started taking place. After that, she really became involved in the women's rights. She then went on to write a book called Discourse on Women, and it was all about women's rights, what they weren't allowed to do, what rights they didn't have, and what rights that she was hoping later on that they would establish. She also, in 1869, her and her husband founded the Swarthmore College, and this college allowed men and women both to attend. She also founded the first medical school for women, and it was called the Women's Medical College of Pennsylvania. And again, I thought this was really neat because since I am in the nursing career and going into the medical field, that I can relate to this woman. As you can tell, she has accomplished many, many things in her life, but one of the most important was helping women gain the rights that we have today. The second woman I want to talk about is Elizabeth Cady Stanton. She was born in New York in 1815 and passed away in 1902. Throughout her life, she did have 7 children. She later on married Henry Stanton. She was also the other leader, another leader of the Seneca Falls Convention. And she and her husband also went to that anti-slavery convention in London, that the same one that Lucretta Mott went to. They met there, and that's when the whole women's rights ball started rolling for them. During the Civil War, she was also tried to abolish slavery, and that's another thing that her and Lucretta Mott had in common. She was president of the National Women's Suffrage Association. Her and Susan B. Anthony, which was the first woman I showed you at the beginning of the PowerPoint, they formed the National Women's Suffrage Association in 1869, and she was the first president of it. She was also the co-author of the Declaration of Sentiments. This was something that was mentioned in the Seneca Falls Convention that she kind of started taking into action, and the Declaration of Sentiments was about the demand for women to vote in debates. In the Declaration of Sentiments, she wrote facts about all the things that men deprived women of according to the law. And here are just a few facts that she wrote down in the Declaration. It says, he has never permitted her to exercise her inalienable right to the elective franchise. He has compelled her to submit to laws in the formation of which she had no voice. He has made her, if married, in the eye of civil law, civilly dead. He has taken from her all right and property, even to the wages she earns. He has denied her the facilities for obtaining a thorough education, all colleges being closed against her. He has endeavored in every way that he can destroy her confidence in her own powers, to lessen her self-respect, and to make her willing to lead to dependent and objective life. This was a big thing because men didn't want women to think that they could be independent. Men really wanted women to be dependent on them. They wanted them to think that everything had to go through them. And this was a big thing back then. She went on to write in it, now, in view of this entire disfranchisement of one half of the people of this country, their social and religious disgregation, in view of the unjust laws above mentioned, and because women do feel themselves aggrieved, oppressed, and fraudulently deprived of their most sacred rights, we insist that they have immediate admission to all rights and privileges which belong to them of the citizens of these United States. Underneath that, it was signed by all the women and men, and some men that favored the movement. The Seneca Falls Convention is the main thing that I really wanted to talk about today. It was held at the Westland Chapel in Seneca Falls, New York. It was a 2-day convention. It was on July 19th and 20th in 1848. And it was the first ever women's rights convention held in the United States. And about 300 people went. And that even included some men who did believe that women's rights was a major issue. It intended to call attention to the unfair treatment of women. And it was to discuss the social, civil, and religious condition and rights of women. This whole organization was organized by Lucretta Mott and Elizabeth Staton, the two women that I really focused on. And they put an announcement in the paper. And this announcement was put in on July 14th, and it read, "A convention to discuss the social, civil, and religious condition and rights of women will be held in the Wesleyan Chapel at Seneca Falls, New York on Wednesday and Thursday, the 19th and 20th of July, current. Commencing at 10 o'clock a.m., during the first day, the meeting will exclusively be for women, who are earnestly invited to attend. The public generally are invited to be present on the second day, when Lucretta Mott of Philadelphia and other ladies and gentlemen will address the convention." At this convention, the ninth resolution was passed, and it is the duty of women of this country to secure themselves their sacred right to the elective franchise. It was approved during this convention, and the main person who kind of got this ball rolling for them was Frederick Douglass. He was a man. He was a freed slave and a newspaper editor, and when they addressed this resolution, a lot of people didn't think that women should have the right to vote because they were all Quakers and they thought men should be the only ones that have that say. And Frederick Douglass stood up and he said, women need this right. And he argued and he voiced his opinion, and he argued for the approval of the resolution and persuaded the audience, and he's actually the one who got a lot of people and men to sign that. And this led to the Ninth Amendment being ratified in August of 1920, and this allowed the women the right to vote. There were a lot of accomplishments that these women had over their lives, and a few of them that we have today are, the main one is women gained the right to vote, which was the 19th Amendment that they got passed later on. Also, women started to obtain educations and get a higher intelligence, and some women even got to hold higher jobs than men, and that is a huge issue today. Some men do still believe that women should not hold higher educations than men, they should stay home, but thanks to these women, we have gained these rights. We deserve them. We are all equal, and because of these women, we have the same rights as men, and we are where we are today. Thank you.